as the competition is increasing, the dynamics is changing, right? Lakhs of aspirants sit for the prelims examination. So even the paper setters are designing the prelims paper keeping in mind not only to test the students in terms of active recall memory or factual memory, but also test them in their ability to apply the knowledge in the examination setting. I always maintain this viewpoint that understanding the language of the UPSC given in prelims examination is the most important key to clear this examination. In prelims, marks are not lying in between the options only. Marks are lying in between the lines. Hello everyone. So today's topic of discussion is on a very critical and powerful ability which you all need to have to clear the prelims examination, and that is how to read between the lines. Every year, lakhs of aspirants sit for the prelims examination. They have read almost the same syllabus, covered almost the same facts. In fact, they have read almost the same sources. But why do you think there are very few who are able to clear the prelims cutoff with a good number? And then there are some who are always managing to reach to that cutoff marks. The difference lies not in terms of how much they know, but how well they are able to use that knowledge in the examination setting. And that is why we are coming up with this discussion to help lakhs of students to effectively understand what is the skill that is required to clear the prelims examination. So in this discussion, we are going to understand how to read the questions properly, how to decode the language used by the examiner in the designing of the questions. Where are those traps hidden so that you are able to find them and eliminate them smartly? And most importantly, what is the intent of the paper setter in designing the prelims question? So let's understand all these aspects. We will be taking subject-wise examples of UPSC previous year questions to make sense of all of the things which ultimately matters to clear prelims examination. So the first important element in any examination, paper is to understand the examiner's mind. And it has become even more important as the competition is increasing, the dynamics is changing, right? Lakhs of aspirants sit for the prelims examination. So even the paper setters are designing the prelims paper, keeping in mind not only to test the students in terms of active recall memory or, factual memory, but also test them in their ability to apply the knowledge in the examination setting. So it becomes even more important to the students to integrate their knowledge vis-a-vis the concepts and the application of it. Not only this, the questions are also designed to test the ability of the candidates to apply knowledge in unfamiliar settings, in unfamiliar context, right? So this is what we have to understand, that it becomes even more important to understand through the questions, how the examiner is connecting these seemingly disparate ideas, right? Not only this, but even the prelims questions are designed to test the nuanced understanding which they gather or collect through the collective wisdom in their preparation all throughout the year, right? Not only this, we also need to understand what are the elements that are required to be understood by the students while reading the questions, right? So the first element which they all have to look into while reading the questions is questions, language, and expression. Secondly, you all have to look into where are those hints, where are those clues given in the statement of the question, right? Not only this, the questions also test the students' conceptual clarity, and obviously without which any examination would be meaningless, right? So definitely this is the most important element which is being tested and which has to be practiced by the students. Next element, which is considered to be the most critical element, how to develop common sense to clear prelims examination. So this is also one of the important elements which are being tested by the paper setter, right? Not only this, obviously, without facts, not even a single concept could be built, right? In every topic, in every issue of prelims or mains examination, there are certain important facts that become the core of the topic. So what are those facts which are being checked? This also needs to be understood. Next, there are use of extreme words like maybe, no, not, always. If they are not understood or seen in the question properly, then the entire meaning of the statement could change. So this is another area which you all have to look into. So let's understand through the questions language asked by UPSC in previous year questions, how in different subjects the role of language plays a very important, critical deciding factor to arrive at the answer. So these are some of the examples of polity question where the constitutional language and expression is used by the examiner to be able to understand whether the students are, making sense on the basis of how they have used that constitutional knowledge or expression or language. So what I mean by this is that in most of the polity questions, wherever the examiner is using the constitution defines, the constitution expresses, explicitly expresses, there you all need to have keen eye. So for example, in this question, there is mention of the Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt, right? So you have to understand whether the Constitution would be defining civil and criminal contempt, considering the fact that there is already Contempt of Court Act passed by the Parliament way back in 1971. So this is highly unlikely, right? Similarly, if you see another example of the same language used by the paper setter in polity questions, the term office of profit is defined in the Constitution of India. Again, the same expression is used by the examiner to test whether you know what is being defined in the Constitution or not, right? Similarly, if you look at another examples of certain question, so this is an assertion reason-based question, right? What is the statement 2 saying? Article 335 of the Constitution of India defines the term efficiency of administration. Now, my dear students, you all have to make sense of this aspect, that on the face of it, if someone is reading this statement in a very general manner, they will understand that, now they have to prepare what is written in different articles. But no, the intent of the paper setter is not to test whether the student knows what is under Article 335. Rather, they are checking on a very important aspect, whether you know what could be defined in the Constitution or not. Now, making sense of that, are you able to understand the polity language and expression? Do you think that efficiency of administration would be defined in the Constitution, which is so vague and ambiguous and subject to interpretation? अब ये अगर define होने लग गया तो then Constitution of India is already so bulky, it will become even more bulkier. So this is where you have to all understand that what could be defined in the Constitution of India. So whenever you are preparing polity, the language would play a very important role, especially wherever the expressions are used, Constitution of India defines or explicitly mentions, right? Similarly, if we take the clues given by the examiner in framing the question, I always maintain this viewpoint that understanding the language of the UPSC given in prelims examination is the most important key to clear this examination. And why? So there are hidden clues given the way tone is set in the examination question. How? So now the question is to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Now to uphold is a kind of direction given by someone, right? So if you understand the nature of the provisions or the options given, so in preamble no direction is given, simply nature of polity among other things are defined, right? DPSP are definitely the directives given to the state to uphold the concept of welfare state. Fundamental rights are claims which are, demanded by citizens from the states. Fundamental duties, again, are directives or obligations laid down for the citizens vis-a-vis fundamental rights and for other things as well. Now, if confusion would happen with respect to whether this provision is under DPSP or is part of fundamental duties. My point here being is that you have to understand the language used in the question. Even if someone is able to understand the finer nuances like this, he or she will be able to come at the answer more correctly, right? So DPSPs, they are definitely directives given to the state, but do they tell the state to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India? This is mentioned as part of fundamental duties, right? Similarly, if you read again the keyword used in the question's language, the ideal of welfare state. Now everyone knows that the ideals are laid down in the DPSP, right? Preamble is not upholding only the concept of welfare state, rather the ideal of welfare state is enshrined in DPSP, right? So sometimes, that is what the language plays a role in understanding what kind of, nuances or, clues could be deciphered by the students while reading the question. Let's take another example on how and in what all ways conceptual clarity is tested by the examiner in the prelims question. There is no denial of the fact that conceptual clarity is the most important thing in any examination to be tested. So even conceptual clarity is tested in the prelims examination in different formats, in different forms. What are they? So basically, the conceptual clarity is now shifting from not only testing your active recall memory or merely, rote memorization, but they are being tested upon how well you are able to apply those concepts in different settings, right? So this conceptual clarity, which UPSC, is checking through the prelims questions, is based on two aspects: factual memory and conceptual understanding vis-a-vis its application, right? So let's see through the previous year questions where and in what ways this conceptual clarity is tested. Now this is an environment question, right? Just look at the second statement. The question is in the context of WHO air quality guidelines, right? But if I'll tell you that the question's answerability can come only from merely your conceptual clarity and not on the basis of whether you know what are the guidelines laid down, you all will be very much surprised. So let's see where the trap was. So second statement says, in a year, the highest levels of ozone pollution occur during the periods of inclement weather, right? So if someone's concept is very clear in environment, they must all be knowing that for the ozone pollution to happen, sunlight is very, very important. Presence of sunlight is very, very important. And this is not seen in the inclement weather. What is an inclement weather? A weather condition having extreme temperature, lot of hailstorms, either snow, rain, right? There is merely the presence of sunlight in inclement weather. So if that kind of weather is happening, highest levels, leave aside highest levels, ozone pollution would not occur. So if that basic, concept is clear, the question, although is on a topic WHO air quality guideline, but you can arrive at the answer or can be close to the answer by eliminating second statement, right? So this is what you have to understand, that the framing of the question may be on a topic, right? So you prepare on the basis of topics asked. You also have to ace the prelims examination by reading the statements very effectively, right? So this is one of the example. Let's see the other example. This is again environment question, right? So what is the question testing? That in which of the following you are most likely to be found surviving on a surface without soil, the organisms, right? Fern, lichen, moss, mushroom. So if someone is clear about the primary succession, right? So the most first or the starting stage is growth of lichen and mosses on some rock surface. They do not require any soil for that, right? So if someone is clear, they will be able to arrive at the answer more effectively, right? So certain conceptual clarity is required. Let's take an example of polity question. In polity also, certain core concepts are being tested. And what are they? So for example, this question is testing whether you know which are the provisions under right against exploitation. So there are different categories in which fundamental rights are divided. So one category is right to equality, one category is right against exploitation, right to freedom, right? So if someone knows that right to equality consists of provisions under Article 14 to 18 and abolition of untouchability is part of right to equality, they will not put it under right against exploitation, right? And the moment you eliminate two from the options, only one option is left, and that is where your answer is, right? Not only this, such kind of theme has already been repeated by the UPSC in previous questions. They have already asked whether you know that protection against untouchability is a form of discrimination of what kind, whether right against exploitation, whether right to freedom, whether right to constitutional remedies, whether right to equality. So you should not miss out on the questions, recurrent nature, themes recurrent nature, and also you have to make your concepts so clear that if they are asked or checked by the paper setter, you are able to arrive at the answer very quickly. Similarly, if we look at a question from economics, so this question pertains to monetary policy committee. So if someone has read or gone through economics, they are very clear in this aspect that monetary policy is looked at by the RBI, and fiscal policy comes under the ambit of the government, right? Now, if the question is on the monetary policy committee, how can the chairman be the union finance minister? It has to be one who is an RBI governor. So if you are applying that common sense along with your conceptual clarity, third statement you have to eliminate, right? So there are, some ways and means through which you come close to the answer in prelims, and that is what you should focus upon. Similarly, there is this question of art and culture from Jain texts. The students usually have this understanding that art and culture, history do not have any concepts in it. No, as I mentioned, there are certain core facts, core concepts, which are always revolving around the theme, right? And if someone is preparing Buddhism and Jainism, all the more reasons to prepare this topic because it is repeatedly asked by UPSC in prelims examination. They must be knowing that when one studies Buddhist literature, Avadanas form a very important text. And if that conceptual clarity is there in the mind and you are very alert in the prelims examination, and you happen to see any text that is dealing with Avadana, you have to make sure that you are also looking at the options. Now, again, on the face of it, the students may feel that this question is testing the knowledge on Jain texts. No. The examiner is testing the students on the basis of whether they know that Avadanas were Buddhist texts or not. And if you see the options, the moment you eliminate 2, you arrive at the answer, that is 1, 3, and 4. So this is what you all have to look into. Another example of history, which all were the reserved subjects under GOI Act 1919. If someone is clear with the concept of diarchy, reserved and transferred subject, agar itna bhi pata hai that reserved subjects were those subjects which were retained by the Governor General or the Viceroy, then obviously which subjects would they have, reserved under them? Administration of justice. Obviously they would not have transferred this, otherwise it would have meant कि भाई Europeans को या Britishers को कौन try कर रहा है, Indian judges. That is not going to happen, or that did not happen at that point of time, right? Similarly, what about land revenue? Why would they transfer this subject? So obviously they would reserve it. अगर इतना भी समझ में आ रहा है 1 and 3 देखो कहाँ कहाँ पर है, and you still have certain options which you can eliminate. Similarly, police. Why will they transfer police in the hands of Indians? तो इस तरीके से you have to apply that concept, which is very important, right? Similarly, if you look at the ancient Indian history question, if someone is well versed with ancient Indian history, they know that the discovery of iron led to the starting of second phase of urbanization, and we saw rise of Magadhan Empire, right? What is the second statement saying? Rigvedic Aryans knew gold, silver and copper, whereas Indus Valley people knew only copper and iron. ये तो आप छोड़ ही दो that they are saying only copper and iron. My point is, the moment you see iron in Indus Valley civilization, you are going to eliminate it, right? So this is what is being tested by the examiner with respect to conceptual clarity in history questions, right? Similarly, if we see geography में कैसे conceptual clarity test हो रही है, not only on the basis of facts but core concepts. So this question is basically asking that which of the following crops have or can be grown or cultivated, which requires 50 to 100 centimeters of rainfall, right? Of the options given, jute and sugarcane are the rainfall intensive crops. They require rainfall fall more than 100 centimeters. तो ये आप eliminate करोगे, right? So this is what in geography certain concepts are tested, right? If you talk about other questions in geography, now the question theme is what correct inference you draw from isothermal maps in the month of January. अब क्वेश्चन देखकर ही ऐसा लग रहा है यार ये तो हमने पढ़ा ही नहीं है. We did not study isothermal maps and their inference or readings in the month of January, but the paper setter is doing what? That is to intimidate the students, trying to create fear in the minds of the student कि आप ये question solve नहीं कर सकते हो, right? But what you have to do, you have to still try your hands by reading the question. Now, if you read the second statement, it says the presence of cold ocean currents, Gulf Stream and North Atlantic Ocean colder, and isotherms bend toward the north. अब अगर किसी को पता है about the concepts of ocean current, what are warm currents, what are ocean current, cold current, they will know that Gulf Stream is not a cold ocean current, it is a warm ocean current. So question में conceptual clarity is being tested, rather what inference you draw from the isothermal maps in the month of January. Are you understanding all of these things? This is very, very important and is becoming very critical in clearing the prelims examination, right? Similarly, if you see a basic science question, 2021 was a year where we were seeing the second wave of COVID, right? और क्वेश्चन आया था वायरस पे, ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज आस्किंग दैट विच ऑफ द अबव कुड बी कल्चर्ड इन आर्टिफिशियल और सिंथेटिक मीडियम. इफ समवन इज knowing about the mechanism of virus, right, it is not living, it is not active, it requires a host cell, right? So how can it be cultured in synthetic medium, right? So such conceptual clarity is what you need, right? Next element, which is very cliched, very much debated upon, and still the students have to have some common sense while solving the prelims question. So from where do you get this common sense? From the universe? No. By reading the UPSC questions itself, you practice that commonsensical understanding and knowledge, right? So let's see through the previous year questions how this common sense could be actually realized, trained, practiced, and internalized, right? So let's see this question. This is of environment and requires some application of common sense, right? So question is on a impact of solar storm or solar flare. When it reaches the earth, what does it lead to, right? Now solar flare is coming from the word solar, that has to do with sun, right? Tsunami is a seismic activity, right? So how come it would be having an impact on tsunamis to occur, and that too at equatorial regions only? आप देख रहे हो, at equatorial regions, right? So this is where you have to draw the connections and common sense, right? Next example. Question is on Indian laws about wildlife protection. Just have your attention over here how UPSC paper setter, uses the language in such a way that you all have to see that language to make sure you are training yourself to internalize that common sense. What is the third statement saying? Apprehension of a protected wild animal becoming a danger to human life is a sufficient ground for its capture or killing. इसका मतलब क्या है? Merely apprehension or anticipation कि वो future में हमें मार सकता है, is it a sufficient ground for the wildlife authorities to kill or capture any animal? No. So this is where the common sense is applying, right? Just read apprehension. Okay? So this is what you all have to look into while reading the question. Another example of common sense. So why is there a concern about copper smelting plants? Okay? What is the first statement saying? They may release lethal quantities of carbon monoxide into the environment. What is lethal quantity? Matlab fatal, which can lead to death. If that would have been the case, then copper smelting plants would not be installed in such numbers. तो ये जो words हैं lethal, आप बोल सकते थे high qualities या high quantity, उन्होंने lethal बोला, ठीक है? Lethal is like fatal. So this is where you all have to bring your attention and apply that common sense. This is where reading between the lines or common sense comes into picture. Now again, another example of a history question, although I would like to give a disclaimer for this question because, it is like drawing connections, but I still feel that such connections should be connected or drawn. Now the question is on Desher Katha, which is written by Sakharam Ganesh Dioskar. Now Sakharam Ganesh Dioskar, if you read the name, it is more aligned with Maharashtra as a region, right? Now if someone is able to apply that kind of common sense and read the question, despite of not knowing the question, how would a Marathi author use the word Desh in only the specific context of region of Bengal, right? So such interlinkages is what you have to maintain. And if you look at the options given, if you eliminate 3, you arrive at the answer. Similar type of logical connections if you draw, or common sense, connections you build in the question, you still arrive at the answer. On the similar pattern, there was another question in 2018 on Hind Mazdoor Sabha. अब question है Hind Mazdoor Sabha पे, it pertains to post-independence history, और students को लगेगा कि भाई now I have to read post-independence history also. No. So the point is, if you are reading the question is on an organization, Hind Mazdoor Sabha. The name is having North Indian words. Yes, you all agree with this? Now just look at the options. B. Krishna Pillai, EMS Namboodiripad, KC George, they are all South Indian names. Highly unlikely that they will be the founder members, right? Second option, Jayaprakash Narayanan, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, M.N. Roy. अब हाँ थोड़े से हैं names which can be linked with Hind Mazdoor Sabha. अब यहाँ पर you have to apply that common sense or conceptual clarity. Jayaprakash Narayanan, socialist. M.N. Roy, communist. Highly unlikely that they are going to come together, right? Even if they are coming together, let's leave this option for a while. C option, C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer, K. Kamraj and Veer Salingam Pantalu, again South Indian names. Now D option, Ashok Mehta, T.S. Ramanujam and G.G. Mehta. Now you have to take a call between B option and D option, right? If you are taking some calculated risk, most of you would go for D, and that is what the right answer is, right? So this is what I again want to emphasize. It is not always about how much you know, but how well you are applying whatever wisdom and knowledge you have gained after preparing for UPSC examination, right? Let's take another example. So in IR, how the common sense is being tested. So it is an assertion reason based question. India does not import apple from US of America, United States of America. भाई ये कैसे हो सकता है that you all are eating apples or have seen apples on the fruit seller shops? There are, apples very red in color, having a sticker mentioned, mentioning California apples, right? Or वैसे भी, India does not import apple from the United States of America is a very blanket statement. The moment you apply that logic or common sense, you arrive at the answer in an assertion reasoning format, right? Now, next question of IR again, right? So this is economics. Let's see how common sense is being tested. The question is on the advantages of implementing goods and services tax. Goods and services tax anyways is in news also in recent times. So let's see how they have asked previously a question on goods and services tax. Let's read the third statement. It will enormously increase. So if we apply GST, it will enormously increase the growth and size of Indian economy. हाँ ठीक है, होगा, हो जाएगा. And will enable it to overtake China in the near future. In the near future, just on the immediate basis, if India implements GST, will be able to overtake China. ये तो थोड़ा सा far-fetched लग रहा है. So you eliminate 3, you arrive at the answer. So this is what you have to note down. This is where your commonsensical understanding comes into play. Another question of IR, just see how the language and what is the intent behind the paper setter to test the students in prelims examination. The value of Indo-Sri Lanka trade has consistently increased in the last decade. If someone is well versed with IR, the changing dynamics, that too of last 10 years, about Indo-Sri Lanka relations, they are knowing that there is an element of China now in the Indian-Sri Lankan relations. In the presence of China, it can never happen that in the last 10 years, the Indo-Sri Lanka trade has consistently increased. There has never been a dip. ये हो नहीं सकता है ना? तो one is wrong. So this is what you have to apply and see in the question, that how you can still arrive at the answer. Similarly, we see another economics question. So question is on public investment in agriculture, right? Public investment. We have to read the options given, right? Fixing minimum support price for agricultural produce of all crops. Fixing MSP. MSP investment है या subsidy है. So computerization of primary agricultural credit societies, subsidy है या investment है. Free electricity supply to the farmers, investment है या subsidy है. So in investment, there is creation of an asset, right? Free electricity supply to farmers से क्या asset creation हो रहा है, right? Fixing MSP से क्या creation हो रहा है of asset, right? Waiver of agricultural loans by the banking system, right? Which asset is getting created? So these are not public investment, right? So this is what you have to understand, that sometimes UPSC through the language and making wrong options is testing whether you have that element of common sense in you or not. Now comes a very hot debated topic of having extreme words in the prelims questions. Yes, definitely. Merely the use of extreme words will not make every statement wrong. This is one message which I would like to give it to you all. Extreme words in UPSC questions are to be looked at very carefully. They also have to be looked at from the perspective that where do they place this extreme word and in which type of questions. If they have put extreme statements or words in every statement, then what is the answer? What is the pattern? This is what we all have to understand, right? Let's take this example of environment question. So monazite occurs naturally in the entire Indian coastal sands of India. Yes, monazite occurs around the coast, but entire sands of coastal India, not possible. So use of entire is the extreme word here, right? Similarly, if we see another example of questions having extreme word in every statement, उस case में answer क्या होता है? Some species of turtles are herbivores, होंगी. Some species of fish are herbivores, हो सकते हैं. Some mushrooms have medicinal properties, हाँ हो सकता है. Some mushrooms have psychoactive properties, हाँ हो सकता है. Some is a probability that it may happen. There might be some species which will have certain characteristics. So there is a probability, right? If you happen to see the UPSC official answer keys, in such questions, answer is all four. So this is what, again, you all have to look into. Similarly, there is another element of now no in every statement given by UPSC. No virus can survive in ocean water. No virus can infect bacteria. No virus can change the cellular transcriptional activity. ऐसा भी नहीं हो सकता है. There is some possibility. Virus है भाई वो वो कुछ भी कर सकता है. So it only requires host cell. ठीक है, उसके बाद तो no one knows. जब कोविड हो गया तो फिर क्या ही बचा. So no virus can survive in the ocean water. No virus can infect bacteria. Highly impossible. So none is the answer. Yes, some virus can survive. Some virus can infect. Some virus can change. तब होता answer all the three. Otherwise, in this format, it is none. Right? Next. Question of culture. Where the extreme words are put, where are the answers hidden, what is the designing of the options in such question. So question is on Chausat Yogini temple situated near Morena. So now this question was asked because the old parliament building was in the news because of its new design which was getting constructed. Now the old parliament building was designed on the basis of Chausat Yogini temple structure because it was circular in nature, right? So what did UPSC do? They gave you one statement which was on the architecture of the temple, but they used an extreme word only. It is the only circular temple built in India. ऐसा हो सकता अगर ऐसा था तो you would have been knowing, right? So second is wrong. The moment you eliminate second, you arrive at the answer. ठीक है? Next, just see scheme-based question में how extreme words are given. Now the question is on if National Water Mission is properly and completely implemented, how will it impact the country, right? Let's read the statements. It says all the rivers, mind you, the extreme word here is all. All the rivers of Himalayan origin will be linked to the rivers of peninsular India. Possible ही नहीं है. The expenses incurred by farmers for digging bore wells and for installing motor and pump sets to draw groundwater will be completely reimbursed by the government. अब अगर इतनी छोटी छोटी चीज़ों के लिए भी वो सब्सिडी देंगे, that too for a mission like this, and it will be completely reimbursed by the government, so that is what you have to rethink on, right? So such extreme words you have to be very mindful about, right? Next, what kind of facts are checked in the prelims paper? So facts are also of different kinds, and every subject has different kinds of facts that are tested. So for example, history mein chronological facts are tested, right? Polity mein constitutional facts are tested, right? So every subject has its core facts which are inherent part of that, subject or theme. So let's understand and take the example of UPSC previous year questions, how the facts are checked, right? Whether there are facts which are dealing with numbers, data, which is also being checked by UPSC. So definitely yes. So let's see what kind of facts are checked, right? So this is a question on history. And as you know, the nature of the subject is so that UPSC paper setter will check on the sense of timeline which you all should have, right? So let's read the question. The Dutch established their factories or warehouses on the east coast on lands granted to them by Gajpati rulers. अब अगर किसी को पता है that Dutch established their factory, let's leave that they established factories on which coast. इतना पता होना चाहिए that they were there in 1600s, है ना? ठीक है? गजपति rulers कब rule कर रहे थे? That is what is being tested by the paper setter in this statement. So Gajpati rulers were existing in 15th to 16th century. This was 17th century. So there is a difference of 100 to 200 years in the timeline between Dutch coming to India and establishing factories and Gajpati rulers ruling in India, right? So this is where you have to be, now doing when you are, preparing for history, that you all need to have a sense of timeline. The beauty of this statement, beauty bolu ya irony bolu, that in this statement, your knowledge of medieval Indian history is also being checked, as well as the advent of Europeans is also being checked, right? So aisa nahi hai that if you are thinking that the question is only dealing with modern Indian history, you do not require any knowledge of medieval or ancient or culture. No, not right now. The trend is changing, the dynamics is changing, and UPSC papers are becoming tougher year by year. So you also need to be very well prepared, right? Next, another example of timeline or chronology being tested. So if you read the question, you need to have that idea that from which time period the question is asking you the details. So decline of Guptas until the rise of Harshvardhan in the early 7th century. Whenever in history there is a timeline given in the question itself, that you have to always bear in mind while solving the question. Early 7th century ki baat kar rahe hain, right? So if someone knows Parmars, Yadavs, so Parmars of Malwa were existing in 10th century. Yadavs of Devgiri in 12th to 13th century. तो ये कहीं से भी related नहीं है, right? ठीक है? I am not saying that first you all need to have information that which kingdoms are holding power in North India. The question is instead testing whether you have that sense or knowledge of timeline and history or not, right? Similarly, we see another example of economics, how facts are checked. So sometimes there is a misconception that we are not required to memorize certain facts which are surrounding the economics, core themes. So for example, the question is testing in terms of PPP dollars. India is the 6th largest economy in the world, right? अब ये वाला जो data और fact है, usually students prepare from the perspective of mains, ठीक है? And also when you are reading the newspaper, this is one fact which will always be there in a year कि इंडिया की जो रैंकिंग है in terms of PPP dollar, how much large the Indian economy is. So in terms of PPP dollars, India is the 3rd largest economy. And what they have done here, they have, given wrong facts. Okay? So this is what again you have to make sure that there are certain facts which you now cannot be preparing thinking कि ये mains में मैं answer में लिखूंगा, intro में लिखूंगा. No. There are certain facts which are always essential and core, aspect of any subject. Despite of you preparing for, mains, UPSC is all about integration. ठीक है? तो वो चाहे prelims में पूछे, mains में पूछे, it should not be a matter of concern, right? What should matter to you is that you should be aware of that fact, right? Okay. Next, example of facts checked by UPSC. Now, they are asking that the European Union intends to achieve carbon neutrality by which year? This is also another area where UPSC is testing upon. Pehli cheez, climate change has become very important. Climate change targets, if they are being adopted by any organization, UN, EU, becomes even more important. So you should be aware of the targets. It is not simply merely checking of facts from mains perspective, mind you. I'm telling you that there is an integration which is being tested by the paper setter in prelims question vis-a-vis mains facts as well, right? So this is what you all have to be mindful about, right? Next. There is a question again on UNFCCC meeting. Climate change से related, ठीक है? Now let's see what kind of fact is being checked. पहली चीज, agreement was signed by all the member countries of the UN and it will go into effect in 2017. So meeting of UNFCCC in Paris happened in 2015. They are asking that when will it go into effect? Whether 2017 or 16. So this is again what is being tested. Similarly, they have also played with the fact whether how much fund was decided to be part of this climate change treaty. Developed countries acknowledge their historical responsibility in global warming and committed to donate 1,000 billion a year from 2020 to help developing countries to cope with climate change. अगर इतने डॉलर्स देने लग गए फिर तो बात ही क्या है. So what the paper setter did, he just added one extra zero. It was $100 billion instead of 1,000 what was written here, right? So such kind of facts are played by the UPSC paper setter in prelims question. Another example, if we look at how in geography numbers or the latitude is interchanged. The winds which blow between 30° north and 60° south latitude throughout the year are known as westerlies. उन्होंने क्या किया? South को डाल दिया instead of north. So even this minute factual, arrangement created lot of difference. So while reading the question, you are thinking, right, you know the concept, but galti kaise ho gayi? That you know it, but you did not read it properly. Okay? So this is where again the silly mistakes happen from the end of the students and which you all have to avoid. That is why reading between the lines and reading the statements has become even more critical now, right? Next. Now, after understanding that where all traps are set, what all traps are set, right? how you have to read the question properly, right? What are those elements in language, expression, which you all have to look at? Besides this, now what to do? So, as we have seen the previous year questions, while preparing for such things, we still have to make sure that we are preparing our concepts, foundational understanding on the basis of the repeated themes or recurrent themes asked by UPSC. So, there are some cliched topics which are always asked by UPSC, and what are they? So, for example, when we talk about IR, in IR, disputed regions are very, very important. Not only that, they are also asking the reason for the dispute, right? So, not only geographical location, but why the dispute has happened is a trending topic, right? Similarly, reports, you know, commissions, committees, who are, releasing what kind of reports. So this is again another area in IR which is very, very important, right? Next, United Nations, their initiatives, programs, activities, protocols, conventions vis-a-vis IR environment, they are very, very important. So if you look at the example, 2019 mein there is a question on United Nations Convention Against Corruption. In the question itself, they have given another topic, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. In this question itself, United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime is also there, right? So different UN, initiatives become very, very important. Not only this, they have also asked United Nations Credentials Committee. So UN and its related associations, body, organizations become very important for IR. When you talk about polity, systems of government, parliamentary, cabinet, parliamentary proceedings, right? They all become very, very important. Jaise 2017 mein pucha parliamentary form of government. 2017 again they asked cabinet form of government, right? History mein there are term related questions. There are also sometimes, questions repeated by UPSC from the options, right? So for example, 2016 mein aaya, there was this question and the options had Shraman, Parivrajak, Agraharika, Magad. 2020 mein, from the options itself, UPSC framed a question on Parivrajak and Shraman. So what you have to infer, that while analyzing previous year questions, you have to also look at the options given, right? Sometimes even the options could be used to, predict future questions, right? So you have to go one way ahead because UPSC is always ahead of you, right? There is a cliche theme of Sangam literature or Sangam age in prelims, so you all have to be very well versed of that. So identify on the basis of, previous year questions certain themes. Let's say if we talk about geography में map based questions होते ही होते हैं, and usually they are integrated with current affairs and IR, right? Now, another dimension which UPSC is using in the prelims paper is that now the question is not only restricting on one subject, but it is having different subjects in a question being tested from the students. How do they look like? If we talk about this question is having or testing the knowledge of geography, IR, and governance. So in the first statement, there is a statement given, India has joined the Mineral Security Partnership as a member. This is an IR knowledge which you need to have. India is a resource-rich country in all the 30 critical minerals that it has identified. This is economic geography. Third, the Parliament in 2023 has amended Mines and Mineral Development and Regulation Act 1957. This is on polity and governance. So in one question now, UPSC is integrating and interlinking 3 different subjects, right? This is not the only example from UPSC previous year question that you can see. There is another example where in this question, the paper setter is checking history, geography, and polity. Arunachal Pradesh, the capital is named after a fort, which is a historical fact, and the state has 2 national parks, which is a geography fact. Nagaland, state came into existence on the basis of Constitutional Amendment Act, polity fact. Tripura, initially a Part C state, it became a centrally administered territory with the reorganization of state post-independence. So this is what, again, you all have to understand that in prelims, there is this integration which you all need to have, right? Now, what next? Based on our understanding of last 10 years, the trends in prelims examination, we all need to have that foolproof, study plan. And also alongside, we need to have an understanding that what all future, topics could be predicted in different examination or different, subjects in UPSC prelims examination. So let's take one by one where, a trend could be seen or future themes could be predicted. So for example, when we talk about polity and governance and the kind of dynamics that we are seeing in polity and governance, there is an emphasis on federal relations, center-state relations, the powers which states have, the powers exclusively which center has, the power which center has vis-a-vis states is what you all have to focus, and the questions are also going in that direction, right? Similarly, the constitutional focus has become very, very evident in the prelims questions. The constitutional knowledge is what UPSC is testing. Not only that, even the legal provisions, the most important laws and policies which the government is coming up is being tested by the paper setter in prelims questions. So for example, when we talk about the nature of questions in polity, they are turning towards constitutionality, the understanding of the exact provisions of the constitution. So for example, this question in 2024 is testing on the exact provision or the languages that were, included in the 8th schedule, right? Similarly, this is another example of how UPSC is very deeply expecting from the student the constitutional understanding. Bare acts have become even more important now. Question is asking Article 368 of the Constitution, the Parliament may amend any provision by way of addition ke through, variation ke through, repeal ke through. Until the time you don't know what words or expressions are used in the article itself, you cannot solve this question, right? Similarly, there are certain general awareness facts surrounding constitutional provisions or constitution's development, right? So Constitution Day kab celebrate hota hai, Constituent Assembly and the peripheral areas, they have become very, very important, right? Similarly, when we talk about the numbers or general awareness, every year some of the other states have election, right? So how many delimitation commissions have been constituted? So such factual knowledge, deep understanding is what they are expecting. Legal provision, RPA direct पूछ रहे हैं in prelims. Although Representation of People's Act is mentioned very clearly in your mains examination, right? But they are also being, tested or asked in prelims examination. Okay? Now let's take another, subject, that is environment. Now how the trends are changing, nature of questions changing, and how you should prepare. You all must be very much aware of the fact that all the global leaders are becoming very sensitive to the climate change, right? So climate change is a very important topic. The deals that takes place, conventions that are accepted, they become very, very important. Similarly, because of the climate change impact, sustainability in every field, whether energy, whether agriculture, becomes very, very important. So sustainable farming practices in irrigation, sustainable techniques, nutritional security because of changing climate, government support systems to help the farmers to increase their livelihood opportunity, it becomes very, very important. So such themes are becoming very hot trending themes for environment. Not only this, the energy sustainable climate solutions, climate actions, collaborations, treaties, conventions, government support systems, they are important. Not only this, in environment, even species related questions are being asked. Earlier, UPSC used to ask IUCN status. तो आप क्या करते थे, एक्सटिंक्ट स्पीशीज रिमेंबर करते थे, यू यूज टू रिमेंबर लीस्ट वल्नरेबल, राइट? नाउ व्हाट दे आर आस्किंग the behavioral aspects of species. So this is where again you have to focus, right? Science and tech, very very important subject, and the kind of developments that are happening in science and technology with respect to AI, with respect to cyber security, with respect to tech driven governance, with respect to blockchain technology, they are becoming very important themes for you in science and tech, right? When it comes to history, in history they are linking your current affairs with static dimension, but yes, there are in every subject different core themes and areas. So for example, when you talk about ancient Indian history, you have to do Indus Valley civilization, you have to do Vedic age, you have to do certain dynasties. कौन सी dynasties करोगे? Obviously Mauryas, Guptas, ठीक है, Sangam age. So they become very very important. Similarly, when you talk about medieval, Delhi Sultanate is very important, right? Mughals is very important. Bhakti Sufi movement is important. There are term related questions in ancient and medieval, they become very important, right? In culture, you have to have that integrated approach, that in different dynasties, how the culture developed. Architecture mein what all developments happen, literature mein what all developments happen, paintings mein what all developments happen, sculpture mein what all developments happen. So if you go dynasty wise, relating these topics of culture becomes important, right? Modern Indian history, obviously there is a specific emphasis given on Indian national movement, freedom struggle phase, so you have to have that topic very much in your hands, right? There is another drift which we are seeing in modern Indian history with respect to, advent of Europeans, right? So this topic alongside economic impact is becoming very very important in prelims examination. In prelims, there have already been questions asked on Congress sessions, personality driven questions, peasant movement, tribal uprisings, they are still very, very important. So when it comes to history, there are cliched themes which you all have to prepare, right? So now what needs to be done? After understanding the nuances which the paper setter uses in designing the prelims question, after understanding the UPSC previous year questions, the most important themes, after understanding that there is some kind of integration of current affairs through the previous year questions, we now all have to sit, you all have to sit alongside your syllabus, have previous year questions on the table, take certain standard textbooks and prepare your concepts well, right? Apply your concepts with the help of test series. The more you practice test series questions for prelims, the more result you will be seeing in your performance, because ultimately, as we have seen, not only the concept clarity is important, facts are important, but how you are using those concepts and facts when you read the question matters a lot in prelims examination. So you need to have those connections made, you need to have that exam strategy in place based upon your strength and weaknesses, right? So you need to do that curriculum mapping, align your syllabus with the high yielding topics for different subjects, practice and review your performance through test series questions, do the question analysis of previous year questions of UPSC, prepare that roadmap, have a phased study plan, ki okay, this is what I'm going to do today, this is what I'm going to do in a week, this is what I'm going to do in a month, this is what I'm going to do in 6 months. Have that kind of a broad vision board for your targets to clear prelims examination, right? When you adopt this, you are looking at very carefully the previous year questions to understand that there are some repeated themes which you all have to prepare, right? Next aspect of your study or roadmap would integrate current affairs, because time and again what we are seeing is, with the kind of changing dynamics in prelims examination, they are not directly asking current affairs, rather they are taking current affairs as inspiration or cues to frame static question. So definitely in static questions also your current affairs aspect is hidden. And yes, there are some direct questions from current affairs. So you have to integrate that understanding, have that 360-degree analysis, that if I have seen some current affairs topic, how it could be integrated with the static subject. And not only this, how that current affairs topic could be integrated with different subjects in UPSC syllabus, right? So this is what you all have to do. When it comes to, how to achieve it, there is this dual layer study approach which you all need to have. So when it comes to static concepts, you have to have your NCERT books thoroughly read, or some, class notes which you should use as your primary reference material or to make your foundation. You are all aware that if your foundation is not strong, the building would crumble, right? So build your foundation with minimum resources as much as possible, right? Apart from this, one reference book is at the max you require for every subject, right? Jaise if you take an example of, polity, Lakshmikant kar lo, modern history spectrum kar lo, geography NCERTs kar lo. So some, minimum scope should be there. If you do, you can still clear UPSC prelims examination. Current affairs ke liye, obviously, one newspaper has to be followed, right? One monthly magazine has to be prepared. Why? You all must be wondering that if we are following newspaper, then what is the need for monthly magazine? Very, very important still. Why? Because newspapers are not written for UPSC students, right? But monthly magazine is written catering the demand for the UPSC examination. So news are, designed or included in such a way that the content could be readily used for prelims and mains examination, right? But newspapers are not written for you only. The newspapers are written for general audience as well, right? And obviously when the prelims approaches, PT 365 is at the max what you can do. Now you integrate your static with your current affairs. Okay, so this is what the integrated understanding you all need to have. So with this, I would like to end this discussion with a very important message and a note that in prelims, marks are not lying in between the options only. Marks are lying in between the lines. This is what you all have to now focus alongside your regular preparation of prelims. Never think that, prelims examination, or I will not be able to clear prelims examination because of the cutthroat competition, right? Please remember, competition is relative. You are all reading almost the similar sources, right? You're all reading the same facts, right? But you all are not having the same kind of understanding of applying that knowledge, the same kind of common sense which needs to be, looked into while reading the question. So this is where the difference is lying. So never say never. Even impossible says I am possible. So all the best, guys. Have a nice day.